Okay, so school's finally over. 4 days to go. Now it's my favorite part of the day, talking to you beautiful people about rebuilds. So this is something that people have talked about before, but I'm gonna give you guys my personal opinion, pretty much. So yeah, the longest rebuild has been 10 seasons. The shortest rebuild so far. Well, there's other rebuilds that are short, but like there's rebuilds that could like threaten the record and stuff. The shortest rebuild that I have written down is 7 seasons. So we're talking like a 3 year difference. But there's like 10. I have like 9 teams here. So a lot of teams are tied, but doesn't mean a lot of things. And I also want to mention this. I think that a lot of teams are going to go on big rebuilds pretty soon. Like Detroit's on a rebuild. Arizona is probably done their rebuild unless if they miss the playoffs, then we're in trouble. But I'm pretty sure Arizona's done their rebuild, and Detroit can kind of try to collect a Lafreniere in the draft and get more stuff. Um, what's another team? The Canucks. I think their rebuild's pretty much done. The Sharks could be starting a rebuild. Ever since Pavelski left, their team just went to crap really fast. But they're getting better and better and better after the course of all these years and stuff. So yeah, let's get into the leaderboard. So Arizona, last time they made the playoffs was 2011, 2012. That was the year they made it to the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Kings. It has been 7 seasons since then, and it could become 8 because Arizona is in the race for a playoff spot, and a lot of teams are ahead of them. I'm pretty sure Vegas is ahead of them. Calgary's ahead of them. Vancouver's ahead of them. Edmonton's ahead of them. So they're in big trouble. They're gonna have to pick up like one of the Central wild cards or something like that. And the team is in the desert, so do you really expect them to get a lot of like quality? That's why they were crap for 7 years. And the worst season of all was 2017-18 when they lost when they didn't have their first. They went 20 games into the season without a regulation win. They went 0-9 before they got their first win, and they went like 3-17, 3-17 before they got their first regulation win. So it's this team is in a better position now than they were that season. I'd say last year with Arizona, a lot of their players have gotten way better, and I think they're ready to make a run into the playoffs. And they have new players. They have Taylor Hall that they got 2 months ago. They have Phil Kessel that they got in a trade. They signed a lot of players in free agency. They locked up Keller for like an 8-year deal. I remember that day. So yeah, I think Arizona's in a good place and they might end their streak. Now here's a team that I'm scared about. They might get relocated and they might even break the record. Buffalo, 2010, 2011 to now. That's 8 seasons, and it's probably going to be 9 because the Sabres are pretty low in the standings. I don't know what's going on with Buffalo. Buffalo has not done anything. Like, they have tons of first-round picks. They have Jack Eichel, and then 3 years after that, they got Rasmus Dahlin, and that's not even doing anything for them. I mean, Jack Eichel is really helping this team, and they're slowly starting to move them in the standings. Like, they're starting to have, like, good months and stuff. But still, they're not. They're still losing. It's like their biggest problem is goaltending. Like whatever goalie goes to Buffalo, they always get screwed up. Carter Hutton cannot play goalie for the Sabres. He's an alright starter. Olofsson's okay, I guess, or I forget what his. I don't think it's Olofsson, but it's some Linus Olmark. That's his name. Olmark's okay, I guess. But yeah, you're not gonna make it to the Stanley Cup Finals with that team, and it's just horrible. Like this team has been in rebuild for like years, and I think the fans, all they care about is not the fans, the general managers and like the staff members only care about the money. And then what's gonna happen if they start losing season ticket holders? What's gonna happen if this attendance starts going down? this team will relocate, and then there's gonna be no team in Buffalo. The only team that's gonna be left in Buffalo is the Bills, and they suck too. So they could get relocated also. It's just like Buffalo might become a non-sports city by the end of the century, maybe even the decade. No, I doubt that, but like maybe even the end of like 2050. Like if the Bills don't get better, I mean, like, yeah, they're making the playoffs, or the Sabres don't get better. The Sabres are probably going to be the first to relocate, and the Bills have just been not really good for years, and they haven't really won games, so they could get relocated. Okay, that's the present ones. I spent like 5 minutes on those, so that's just fun. And now we move into the ones that are tied with each other. We have four teams tied for third place, which is Buffalo, Washington, Boston, California Golden Seals / Cleveland Barons, the Colorado Rockies. Yes, they were a hockey team. New Jersey Devils, and Carolina. So we're gonna review those teams. So Washington, 1974, 1975, their crappy expansion year. To 1982, 83, 8 seasons. And I mean, it's not like this now with Vegas, and maybe even Seattle can develop into a good team like that. But it was hard to get a team into the playoffs in their first year of expansion. You're lucky to just have a over 500 record in your first year of expansion. You have to develop your team over the years, and Vegas just broke all those odds. I said screw those odds, and then I did it again. Then they make the playoffs and make the freaking Stanley Cup Finals. So anything can happen, but that's why they had the longest playoff drought, because they had terrible drafting, and the team was managed poorly. And there was also like rumors of the team being relocated. I remember watching the 2018 documentary for the Capitals winning the Stanley Cup. It's all these like sad ads of like, don't make the Capitals relocate, save Tommy's team, whatever. It's just sad. Like, this team was trash for years, and then they got Ovechkin, and then they had Gardner before, Kuznetsov, Oshie, Backstrom. They got all those players, and then they put it together and won a cup. So yeah, that's why they lost the playoffs for that long. Boston. That's the next one. 1958, 1959 to 1967, 1968. That's 8 seasons that they haven't made the playoffs. And that wasn't surprising, because like Boston was mostly bad throughout the original 6 era, which was like 1942 to 1967. So I expected it. And then they picked up Bobby Orr, and then they got Phil Esposito, and they got some other people, and they just won cups after that. But it takes a long time. Yeah. So this one was a little bit weird, because like this team didn't make the playoffs at all in their existence. California Golden Seals. So they were the team, one of the 6 teams entered in the expansion draft in 1967. We'll talk about that at some point on the channel. And they took all their players. The last time they made the playoffs was 1970, 1969, 1970. They relocated to Cleveland in the process of not making the playoffs. So it's like, okay. And then they didn't even make the playoffs with Cleveland. And then they merged with the Minnesota North Stars. And you think that would make the North Stars good, but that really didn't help. I mean, like, they had some alright players that went to them, but not really. So yeah, 8 seasons. Colorado Rockies / New Jersey Devils. Yes, I know the Colorado Rockies are a baseball team, but they did play. It was a hockey team before they became a baseball team. So, Colorado Rockies fans, you can thank the hockey Colorado Rockies for you having a team. I'm pretty sure that's what attracted them. So yeah, then they relocated to New Jersey in the process, and the last time the Rockies made the playoffs in 1977-78, and before that, they were the Kansas City Scouts. So they relocated like 3 times. I don't know why they went to New Jersey though. Like, New Jersey is like the last place I would expect a team to go. No, actually, probably the last place I would expect a team to go is Sunrise, Florida, but that's just Florida Panthers, so whatever. Yeah, it took them a long time, to 1987, 1988. That was 9 seasons. It doesn't really surprise me, because this team was managed poorly, just like a lot of the rebuilding teams on this list. So I'm not really surprised about it. Now we move into Carolina. Now, their streak just ended last year. They made the playoffs in 2008, 2009. I'm pretty sure that's when they lost in the East Conference Finals against the Penguins. We talked about that in the last video, actually. And then they didn't make the playoffs until 20. They might have gotten out by. They might have gotten knocked out by Boston. They got knocked out by Boston in 1 year. It wasn't It wasn't last year, but it was like 2008, 2009, maybe 2007, 2008. I don't know. Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs for literally 9 seasons, which is just really sad. Like, that team was nothing for years. The next team that we actually talk about, though, is a team that I think after they in like 2017, 18 to like 2019, I was like, yeah, this team's back on a rebuild. Welcome back to Rebuildville, Edmonton. So the Oilers made the playoffs in 2005, 2006, and they go to the Stanley freaking Cup Finals. They lose to Carolina, the person in our last one. They don't make the playoffs for 10 years after that. How? Edmonton. That's just... You could carry that good team that you had in 2005, 2006. Carry it in 2006, 2007, and maybe even cap up a cup. But you didn't. You missed the playoffs, and then the next year you missed the playoffs, and after that, missed that. And then you get Connor McDavid, and he's playing in the crappiest city of all. I mean, they're okay now. Like, they're actually doing pretty good. They're going to make the playoffs this year. Happy for them, but they were terrible for like 10 years. So it's just this team was poorly managed by a lot of other teams. And now we get into the last team that we have here, Florida. So 1999, 2000, 2011, 2012. That's 10 years. Florida was managed poorly. I don't really know too much about Florida in that stretch, but they didn't have a lot of good players. They got Olli Jokinen, but that didn't take them to the playoffs. Another team that we should probably talk about here is the Canucks, the Islanders, and a few other teams that had long droughts. The Canucks have 4-year droughts, and if they miss the playoffs this year, which they're probably not going to, this would be 5. So I don't think they're going to threaten the threat. I think they will make the playoffs at some point before they get to at least 9 seasons. So yeah. And then there's New York. They went on a pretty long drought. Back when Mike Milbury was their GM. We'll discuss that at some point because I hate Mike Milbury. I don't like him at all. So, yeah, I guess that's it for this video. Before we leave, let's talk about the teams that have won cups. Arizona hasn't won a cup at all. Buffalo hasn't won a cup. Washington, they won a cup in 2018. Boston, they won like 3 cups since then. Minnesota North Stars, aka San Jose Sharks, when they half merged, / Dallas Stars. Stars won a cup, Sharks haven't. The Rockies versus the Devils. The Devils won 3 cups. The Hurricanes won 1 cup, but it was before the rebuild happened. And the Oilers haven't won cups since the 80s and 90s. And the Panthers, they went to the Cup Finals once, haven't won a round since. So yeah, that'll be it for this one. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any recommendations for videos, put them down in the link below. Because I had to ask the Discord server what video I should do today. Someone recommended the Seattle mock draft. I was like, it's going to take a long time for me to do that. I'm going to have to do a lot of research. Look up the teams, look at the player stats and stuff, and see which teams are like on the trade block and stuff. And that could change. Like, that's like 2 years from now when the expansion... No, it's next year. But it's a year from now when the expansion draft will do. So... I'll come up with something for tomorrow's video unless some big news happens, and then I'll cover that. I might even cover that tonight if it happens tonight. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Check out the Discord server in the link below, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.